Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday night, and it is the Progress Report. I'm your host, Dion Sage, and we have an exciting show for you. As you can see, the jacket is out tonight, so you know it's going to get a little serious tonight. We have our special guest tonight is a gubernatorial candidate, and for those of you, those of my viewers who do not know what a gubernatorial candidate is, that means he is running for governor of the great state of Rhode Island. Yeah, it's so great just to say Rhode Island, right? Because before we used to have to say the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, but it feels so great to say the state of Rhode Island. And of course, you know, I am super excited. As you see, the wine glass is out tonight. And if you looked at the promo for today, it's been a while since I've been able to have this gentleman on the Progress Report. It's been because we've had so many different people on, and you know, I'm gonna bring him in a second. I'm not gonna say if you've seen the promo, you know what it is. If you did not see the promo and you're just tuning in, it's gonna be a little treat, right? But before I bring him on, there's something I want to talk about, and I want to talk about John Gruden. First of all, John, for those of you who know who John Gruden is, John Gruden stepped down Monday as the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders football team. And after the New York Times had came out talking about emails he had that were homophobic and misogynistic. And according to the New York Times, ESPN, and all the news media sites, they're all saying that he had, in these emails, allegedly, had asked why did Goodell make Jeff Fisher, who was then coach of the Titans, I think it was the Titans, in 2014, draft Michael Sam, who was an openly gay player in the draft, who was supposed to be up higher but got moved down after he came out for being openly gay. And he made comments about him and called repeatedly Roger Goodell said the F word. Yeah, Faggot in the emails to the president of the Washington Redskins, President Allen, and also to multiple groups of people of the Washington Redskins and around the NFL. This is just, he also, and I'm not going to, listen, I'm not going to be I'm not who I am if I don't even say this. He also used racial slurs against the NFL Players Association president at the time, I believe it was DeMarcus Smith, I believe. And like, this doesn't surprise me with the NFL, because if we sit there and think about it, right? He was also if you look at it, when he was talking, he was against the kneeling during the national anthem. He But not just him, many other coaches around the NFL. And I'm not surprised that this came out about this particular coach or any coach in the NFL in particular. Don't get me wrong. I am a football fan. I love the game of football. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. But I would not be surprised if something came out about racism in the NFL, or even homophobia within the NFL. Let's remember, Adrian Peterson said that he doesn't believe that there should be a gay player. He said this in 2014. In the NFL. He said there shouldn't be a gay player in the NFL, and he'd feel uncomfortable. I'm guaranteed there's many other players that feel that way. There's many other coaches that feel that way, and even people that are behind the scenes. So as this investigation unfolds, I want to remind everybody the investigation started because there was some information about the manager and owner of the Washington Redskins, and then this opened up about John Gruden. So there's going to be some more information, allegedly. But I'm so excited. Let's get into the fun stuff for today. I am so happy to have my good friend here, my bestie. And let me just say this because I don't want my other two best friends, Deanna and Denise, don't be getting jealous or anything because y'all know y'all my girls and all this stuff. But this is my boy right here. We go through thick and thin. We talk about a lot and all this stuff. And I love when he's able to be on the show. I love when I can be on his show. My fellow worship person at church. And all this other good stuff. The one, the only. He's a host of Tea with Taylor. Wow, how can I forget about that? The one, the only, Mr. Taylor Neptune.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
What's
How
up,
you doing?
G?
How you
Good.
doing?
How are you today?
Tired.
You're always tired. You're getting old.
Well, I mean, catching up there, buddy.
Listen, you know what? It's
Catching
okay.
up there,
It's
buddy.
okay.
Yeah.
With age comes a lot of good things. But
that's true. Comes
yeah.
wisdom.
That was a great intro. Thank you for that.
No
Cheers to that. Thank
Cheers
you.
to that.
You made me feel good about me. I love that.
You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot lately.
I know. I'm tired too. What can I say? That's what I said.
You look tired.
How dare you? How dare you? See what I have to deal with, guys? This is what I have to deal with on a daily. On a daily.
That's not true. Everyone, I am very nice. I am pleasant to be around.
As pleasant as sucking on a lemon. But
wow. Actually, sucking on a lemon is pretty good sometimes, especially when you got that sore throat. You need that lemon. So when something is wrong, see how I turned that back around? So sometimes you gotta put that lemon in your tea to get it all out. We're gonna ask the doctor about that a little bit. We're gonna ask the doctor about that a little bit later.
We love the doctor, so I'm really glad to have him on today.
We do like the doctor. The doctor's pretty cool.
What I don't love is what you were just talking about. I heard this about this coach in the NFL.
John Gruden.
Goodness gracious.
Did you see his face though?
Oh my God, it's so ridiculous. He also said something about in those emails, something about like giant lips too.
Oh, he said something about his giant lips.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, of course, that's something you would attack because
he looked like the type of coach.
At the photo.
I'm sorry, he looked like the type of coach that like you see a player in the combine just literally hit it and then be like, oh, that nigga's
fast. He looks like he honestly does look like one of those people that would say.
I'm sorry,
that would say that something like that. Yeah.
Listen. I mean, and this is fairly recent. It is like in the last 10 years. So let's be real. We know that it's not okay to say these things in 2014.
Honestly,
right?
You would think that at this point you would realize it's not okay to say these kinds of things. But apparently not, especially in a paper trail. That's an email that can easily be tracked. Like, what are you doing? That you clearly were not trying to.
I mean, no.
Anywho's.
Again, are you shocked as the NFL?
No, that's the problem. I'm not shocked. But that is the problem, that we have been so desensitized to this because it's been happening for so long and so many people have been playing a party to it.
Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy because, when the whole kneeling had started in the NFL, and Colin Kaepernick, who is still not playing in the NFL. I mean, he probably doesn't have any more good years left, but, he sacrificed his entire carer for a movement to say
something he believed in.
Something he believed in. And, I don't think he gets enough credit. I don't think he gets enough at all for literally you know what, enough's enough. I'm sitting here playing football.
True.
But,
Yeah.
Because think about it, and I'll be honest, I like Colin Kaepernick. I think he's cute. But if Kaepernick wasn't a professional football player and he was just some random person on the street, it looked like he would have,
Interesting.
I
okay.
Let's be real.
I'll agree. But I again, it's a story that we hear all too often. The same thing happened with Nipsey Hussle. One of those amazing people that's just out there, drawing attention to these kinds of things and then disappears because of something that could have been avoidable, but people are afraid to move forward with.
I don't know if that's the same because Colin he didn't disappear. Colin.
No. I mean, I'm being polite. He didn't disappear. We all know what happened. Right. We all know what happened. I'm being polite.
They got rid of Nipsey. But Nipsey was talking about the right thing, like buying back our neighborhoods and investing in our homes and investing in our communities.
Yeah.
So we can stop the gentrification process. I think that's
That's a really big one.
Well, technically, what is it? We can't stop the gentrification process, but we should be able to buy into the gentrification process. I think that people who lived in the neighborhoods for many years should be able to buy into the economic progress.
We should be included in that process.
In the entire process.
Absolutely.
We should be at the table.
And that's another reason why I'm glad that we have our guest that we have here today too, because he often says, you got to get down and dirty. You got to know what people want in order to be what people want, so to speak.
You know what?
He's a people person.
He is a people person.
He's a people person.
I've met him on some occasions and been to a couple of things with him, and I think I've had lunch with him one time. Not bad. Not a bad guy.
Oh, you're being coy. Not a bad person.
I mean, so, but I think that race is going to be interesting now because now you have Matt Brown, Seth Magaziner.
You brought that up to me earlier, and I was like, who? I know who Seth Magaziner is, and I know.
Lion, get the phone. Lion, get the phone.
I said, who? I know who Seth Magaziner is, so there's that, and I know who Dr. Luis Daniel Munez is, but yeah.
And then who else? I think Nelly Graveda.
I'm not sure. We're gonna have to ask.
Dan McKee.
I would think you would know.
I mean, to be honest with you,
yeah. No, yeah, exactly.
It's for me. I think I am personally tired of established politics.
Right. Yeah.
I'm tired of established politics. Yeah. I totally am, and I'm not giving him an endorsement or anything, but I think whatever candidate to me right now that can produce and show me that they are not the establishment and not giving the same rhetoric that we've heard for years.
Right.
That's really talking about real change.
Right.
I want some. You know what? Here's what I want in a politician. When they come knocking on my door.
Tell me, what would you like in a politician?
Listen to me. Let me knock on the door. Knock on the door.
Hello, Mr. Sage.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to see in your future politicians?
Well, thank you for asking. What I like to see in my future politician is I want to see somebody that if they're making decisions on poverty, they've dealt with poverty. Not just dealt with it, they've experienced poverty. I want somebody who's making policy on healthcare, somebody who's had to see and make decisions whether or not to get this medication or make sure to turn their lights on. I want somebody, for my candidates that I'm choosing and I'm going to be choosing and I'm going to be voting for, I want somebody that's going to sit there and give me a real experience. Like no more. We can't keep doing business as usual. We can't keep doing all that at all. That's me.
That's to piggyback on that, just a little bit. There are a few candidates and there are a few political people out there who have done right, so to speak, or who have started in the right direction. And I see a lot with the newer generation that we tend to just blow things up without taking notice of the things that are good. And what we should do, as well as looking for someone with all those qualities and someone who's going to do all those things that we need them to do, is to piggyback off of what we've already learned. And that's just a big part of it that we tend to leave out.
But that is a big part we leave out, because I think one of the biggest problems we have in society now is when something doesn't work, we take it and we throw it out instead of saying, okay, let's take this and do a SWOT analysis on this.
What works?
What was the strengths? What were the weaknesses? What were the opportunities? And what were the threats on this? What worked? What didn't work? Period. Do a Venn diagram. Didn't we learn that in grammar school? Remember those things?
Yes, the Venn diagram.
Oh my goodness!
Absolutely.
Seriously,
don't bring me back to college, please, or high school.
I mean, but you know what? I'm sorry. Sometimes I think it has to go back there, where everybody has to come and get in a room, take off the tie, roll up the sleeves, take off the cufflinks, take off the jacket, and literally sit there and and sit there and say, well, maybe we need to do a table of contents. Maybe we need to what are the pros? What are the cons? What is this?
Just like we talked about at the festival that we went to. What was it? One of the festivals we went to this summer. We were talking about how the Black and Brown community used to get together Don't give me that look. And how we could all just find.
Oh, at
we could,
Juneteenth.
oh, it was Juneteenth.
It was Juneteenth. We were talking about
how
that.
iconic. Yeah,
Juneteenth.
look at that. No, we you know, just like you were saying, you know, it would be great if, you know, all these different organizations within the Black and Brown community could get together under one roof. In the church house, even like we used to do back in the day, and discuss all the issues, discuss all that is affecting us as individuals, so that we can bring it together as a whole.
But you know, and you're right. You're right. I think, especially for the BIPOC community, that we're way past that.
Mm-hmm.
Where each and every group that intersects in the BIPOC community, we need to get together and sit at the table and say,
Absolutely.
okay, what is it? What is this? And you know what? We got to do it. And yes, you know, like I have my faith. We have our faith, but we have to do it like Malcolm X said. We have to literally put our religion, we have to put our faith, and leave it at home in the closet when we come to the table and start talking about the issues for real.
Right.
What's affecting our community? How is it affecting our community? Yes, at home, pray for you. Pray for it. Do what you got to do. Meditate. All that stuff. Do what you have to do. But when we get to the table, we put that aside and say, what is it that we need to do to move our community forward? Everybody, so everybody's prosperous. Not just heterosexual, but not just gay, not just lesbian, bisexual, transgender, but everybody in the BIPOC community that is represented.
You know, I already agree with you, friend. You already know.
You know.
You already know.
Well, you know, Mother Edna.
Don't start. Don't you start. Sometimes Dion turns into an old church woman. But I'm going to say it for you. I think we need to go to commercial.
Oh, we do have to go to commercial.
I know.
So we have to go to commercial, but when we come back from commercial, I'll be interviewing gubernatorial candidate Dr. Louis Daniel Eunice. We'll be right back. Well, we are back, and it was a wonderful conversation with Taylor. Taylor's going to come back a little bit later, but right now I have the privilege and the honor of interviewing this gentleman for the second time, having him for the second time on the show, and that is Dr. Louis Daniel Eunice. And you know, I really enjoy listening to him, talking to him, and I know it's gonna be a great conversation again. So let's bring him right on, Chris. Dr. Munoz, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Dion. How are you today?
I'm well. It's been a long day. I want to thank you because you had to make some arrangements, I heard, to make sure you could be here tonight. So I thank you for being here tonight, moving things around your schedule last minute. So I truly thank you.
No worries. No worries. I'll always make time. So I appreciate the opportunity as well.
No problem, bro. So we've had a pretty, since the last time I seen you, we've had an eventful summer. We've been at multiple rallies together. I've seen you at multiple rallies. I've seen you you spoke at the Repeal Leobor rally in front of the Providence Police Station. You were also, I believe you were at the Candlelight Visual on the East Side as well. You've been at multiple things. You've been at pride flag raisings, marches. what has been the highlight for you for all of it, doing all this?
I mean, highlight's a heavy word, right? Because sometimes when you're in a race, rarely are you looking back. Every moment feels like the last, right? And it's really about being present at every moment that you're at. And what I have found, and especially a lot of those opportunities to share space with others, even yesterday at the Indigenous Peoples Day in Pawtucket, where we were protesting the William Blackstone statue and the need to tear it down. I didn't go there prepared to speak, and it's interesting when you move with people in mind and bringing your full self into spaces, how the universe and just the spirit of this movement conspires to create space, right? And for truth to come out in words. And it's just been a lot of that. And it's that fire that others bring and that I bring that, it makes every instance more powerful than the last. That may sound weird, but we're not like assessing the team. When I say we, the team, we're not looking at every speech and saying, was it better than the last? What we're really saying is, like, what truth did we share then, right? What truth was needed in that space, and did we bring our full selves into it? And I am confident and happy that it's been the case that I have.
So you said something, the highlight is being able to move with people. You ran back in 2018 and you had ran as an independent, and you said people over the party, right? Now you're running as a Democrat. Do you still believe in putting people over the party?
Absolutely. From a values perspective, I don't think that politics should be a lifelong career. I think it should be a temporary service, and we should always be handing off leadership and public service roles to the next generation, right? The work that we do should always be for the 7 generations that will follow, but ultimately the handoffs should be for the generation that's immediately behind us, right? And so the only way to really move in that way is to understand that these hierarchical structures of power were designed for power to remain stagnant, right? And to remain in the hands of the few. And so when I said people over party last time, it very much was a focus of, we should be focusing on the work that people need, building programmatic changes, and then moving on from, at times, even our own understanding of what good was 10 years ago, right? Because we know that good is very different in terms of what we need after COVID-19 versus what people were talking about 2018 when they thought the economy was going to continue to boom, right, for another 10 years. Things change and we have to change with the times, but the core of what we do should always be focused on people.
So, staying in the line of people, right, and making people first in the party and things like that. Rhode Island is facing so many different issues when it comes to education, from education to people experiencing homelessness, to even you look at the capital city, Providence, the capital city. Our murder rate is going up, right? So when we're talking about putting people first, what do you think that, especially people who are experiencing poverty and homelessness, what is the first thing as governor that you think that you can do to affect or to alleviate some of that pain, or that I don't know what word I'm looking for. Oh my goodness, I'm tongue tied right now, guys.
Yeah, but it's suffering, right? I mean, fundamentally,
it's
people.
Suffering. Yeah, what we can do to alleviate that suffering.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't need to wait till I'm governor to do the work. I mean, the work I've been doing, working collaboratively with Representative Leonella Felix and DARE and the George Wiley Center, supporting in spirit while working simultaneously alongside Delia Rodriguez, who was setting up rent relief clinics, and pushing the administration to try to deploy more of the money that the federal government has allotted for helping people not only get rent relief, but support and utility bills, forward-facing rent for people who see that they might have trouble in the next few months. And that program can even support people who in fact are homeless and who may need to get a place. Now, there's some issues with that, and that landlords may not, discriminatory practices may ultimately impede their ability to get an apartment, and that's something that we need to deal with as well. So my point, Dion, is campaigning and governing are not two separate things, contrary to what consultants like to say. How you campaign is how you will govern. And so stepping into that governor's office, what I would do right now if I were governor, and what I will do then if we continue to have the challenges we face today, is determine whether Rhode Island Housing should have that contract, because we need to make sure that whatever organization we're working with to deploy those funds is deploying the funds as quickly as possible. We also need to address homelessness. And my concern is that people only think about homelessness when someone is living in a tent or in a car. That is the clearest version of homelessness. But the federal government does not qualify someone living on their friend's couch as homeless, but they are homeless as well, right? And so the way that we address that is by actually creating, economic opportunity in addition to housing, low-income, affordable housing. And in addition to just public housing as well, right? So we have to kind of start breaking down these tiers of support that need to be invested in, structures that need to be built out for people to have a place to stay, maybe when they don't have a job yet, but then support them to getting a job, giving them access to free community college. If they cannot go to community college, if they have health needs, also making sure that there's a place for people to live. I mean, housing is a human right? Healthcare is a human right. If we don't reflect these human rights in the work that we do and the investments that we make, then, fundamentally, we're going against everything that we've said we've stood for as a country. And, in summary, what I'll say, Dion, is, we need to start talking about what programmatic changes mean through the lens of equity and racial justice. And if we don't have equity and racial justice as a lens through which we're looking at these problems, then it doesn't matter if the words sound great. It doesn't matter if we say affordable housing. It doesn't matter if we say climate justice, because ultimately, without equity and racial justice as a lens through which we see those issues, the investments will never go to the people that need it the most. We've seen that in history. And, I'm hoping to bring that lens to the governor's office and to make sure that we can actually create structures that enforce the human rights that we know people should have.
So real quick, because I see that I'm getting a signal. I think I'm getting a signal. We'll get ready to go to commercial. But before we do, I got to ask you, you were interviewed by G. Valicente recently. I watched the interview, and one of the questions that he was really trying to get you to answer was about, are you left? Are you center left? What are you and all this stuff? And, the answer you gave, and you could just take a second to reiterate that answer when it comes to being left, center left, because I think this is a big argument, big debate among the Democrats and in our nation right now.
Yeah, just to paraphrase my answer, because I think he asked me like 3 times. And it's like I had to say it again in different ways so that Mr. Valicente could understand. But, at the end of the day, I'm fighting for Rhode Islanders, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, having lived struggle, having understood what economic hardship is, what homelessness is, having experienced hunger pains, these real lived experience create visceral reactions that translate into political courage and into really a level of momentum that we need to move forward collectively to ensure that we're bringing people together in this economic struggle that 95% of us are in, right? This top-down struggle where people are living paycheck to paycheck and want leaders that understand that and that are willing to fight on their behalf rather than on behalf of special interests. And so the multiple answers I gave Mr. Valicente all ultimately were that, which is we have to push forward, we have to bring people together, and then I'm happy to answer specific policy questions. The issue that I think we're facing across the board in the Democrat Party is, people say, who are you left of? And at this point we have to ask, who are the people asking left for, right? Are they moving left for themselves? Are they moving left for a particular faction or belief system? Or ultimately, are they trying to say something else? Because what I'm amazed at is, when people say, who are you left of? It's like on an ideological spectrum, what is it that differentiates people that are saying the same exact thing if it's not lived experience and actual action? And at least if nothing else, I know that I'm the candidate taking actions, and I'm the candidate with lived experience and the one that's going to fight for Rhode Islanders.
So defund the police. Quickly, quick answers, 30-second answer.
Yeah, so like I said in the interview, when we look at the line items in Providence as an example, we can see that in a time where people that struggle with mental health are 16 times more likely to get arrested, the line item for diversion programs is $600,000. That's how much money they're going to allocate. When you look at the line item for riot gear, it's $877,000. Right? We've had like one riot in like 6 years. So clearly there's a disconnect there. I think what we need to tackle these line items based on a set of values and a set of information. So we know that we should be investing more in diversion programs. I also, if you look at the state level, which I did mention in Mr. Valicenti's interview, we see that the governor has created an allocation for a bond of $34.7 million for new barracks for South County State Police. And he created it in a way that he could bypass voters having to vote on that. I think that's very problematic when we know that we need more shelters, when we know that we can solve and need to solve homelessness here in the state of Rhode Island, that so much money, even if in a bond, is being allocated to barracks instead of shelters.
Doctor, real quick, Leobor, repeal or reform?
Leobor, the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights, displaces accountability. And so it creates a process that can last up to 12 months if there's an appeals. Now, what's the problem with that? If someone doesn't have criminal charges, but still crossed the line, they can remain 12 months receiving checks and benefits. And then ultimately, what message does that send the community that has suffered under the baton of that person, right, who crossed the line? It sends the message that accountability can be displaced. And when accountability is displaced, justice is delayed. And when justice is delayed, the integrity of our public safety system is undermined. And that's when things start to fail. So I'm for repealing the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. I think it's time for expedient justice.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so Dr. Munoz, we're going to have more with Dr. Munoz right after this commercial break. We're going to bring Taylor back and have a wonderful conversation. Y'all don't go anywhere. Just freshen up your drinks and come right back now. So we are back, and I got Taylor Neptune here, and we are talking with Dr. Luis Daniel Munoz, who is running for governor in the great state of Rhode Island. And I'm basically Rhode Island is a great state.
Yeah,
I was born and raised.
You can say that.
Born and raised here right in Providence, Rhode Island, y'all. Yeah, it's where I'm from. So it's the great state of Rhode Island. Yes, we're small. I already know we got some viewers out there that around the country. Yes, we're small, but we have a big heart.
The smallest. One of the smallest.
Unless DC becomes a state.
But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you on that. Mm-hmm, yeah. So I heard you talking to Dr. Lewis Daniel about all the events that he's been at this summer and over this past year with us, and I was also a party to that, and it was really great. I was really happy that he was able to be a part of that. So thank you for actually giving us your time and being a part of all those things. First, I'll say that. But second, I wanted to get your opinion on something. And what was one of your standout moments throughout all that? I would say something that you learned about the queer community from all that.
I'd love to jump right into policy, but I think I take the human side of it. I think as a cis gender heterosexual male, it's really understanding how little you understand, right, about the struggle, the internal struggles, the interpersonal relationships, the dynamics that are at play when people not only come out, but as they go through their journeys. And then as they confront the structural barriers. And I know we talked about adoption the last time, right, in the last interview, but that's ultimately, I think that was the most powerful thing that I could learn in those spaces, really how little I understood and how important it is to be vulnerable about that, and to bring, again, your full self into those spaces and not to necessarily feel that that you can't ask questions, right? That you can't better understand intersectionality even within the LGBTQIA community, because we understand that racial justice is a component as well, right? That plays out.
It's always been a component.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could go on this, but I will say that's
listen, I hear you. We're all still learning this together too. It's a learning curve happening right now.
So speaking of learning curves, on your website you state that you're committed to defending women's rights and women have autonomy over their own bodies, and we must protect their reproductive health rights.
Agreed.
I agree with that, right? But it leaves out a group.
Absolutely, yeah. So I also, the same I would say for really, whether we're talking trans man that has a uterus, right? That ultimately can bear children, also LGBTQIA reproductive rights, even for those that, let me take a step back and say reproductive rights from my perspective and just reproductive health isn't necessarily only a matter of just childbearing, right? It's also about health, ovarian health, health of your uterus. It's the cancers that are associated with that. It's the screenings that are associated with that. It's breast cancer. It's every element of taking care of anyone that that has those risk factors, which we've previously applied to a specific gender and sex, right? In terms of how we framed it within the healthcare system. So, I know I've gotten really complicated, but I think it's really the only way for me to kind of pull this back and ultimately say that I know that is that within that particular page of what I stand for, because it's focused on women's rights, it doesn't fully encompass members of the LGBTQIA community that also, have the same needs. And we're planning, I would say, to expand that page as well. Not even that page, we're actually going to have a distinct page.
That's good. Yeah. So it'll accurately say how you feel on the page. Got that. That makes sense. And also, I heard that you guys earlier were talking about the interview on Channel 10, and we need to settle a debate first. Most importantly.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let you forget.
Oh yes. What type of tie was that you had on the debate? Was that a paisley tie?
I could have sworn when I looked a little closer, it looked like it was turtles or something like that.
No, it was autumn flowers.
Oh, we're both wrong.
You said turtles.
I said
at least you said pattern. I thought it was just a paisley.
He thought it was paisley, and I wasn't convinced. But you looked great as usual. The 3-piece suit was on. Loved it.
Thank you.
You stuck to the issues. You were super prepared with the questions. So I would say kudos to you for that. It was a great interview.
So, question: how's your daughter?
How old?
No, how is your daughter? The last time we spoke,
Oh, she's good. She's good. More hyper than ever.
Is she excited that there's a possibility that her dad could be the next?
Yeah, does she understand any of the political things that you try to express?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to say no, right? Because I mean, I think on some level, yes. She's come to spaces with me, and we went to the homeless encampment in Providence, and I think that she understands what it is for people to be in need, right? I think she correlates what I'm doing with I would say, desire to help people, but the structure, positions, roles, differences, right? Like I don't know if she's really seeing that, like systemic racism, right? Right, like those are just big concepts for her, but at this point, I think she sees that there is a need, and that
she's
I'm
10,
trying
correct?
to support. She's what?
How old is she?
She's about to be 4.
Oh, I'm like, wow, she was a very smart, tall, standing girl when I met her.
Yeah.
Listen, if it helps, I also always get my own sister's age wrong. So there's that.
He often gets his own age wrong.
That's intentional.
Often.
I mean, we're talking about your daughter. So, one thing that I can say as far as knowing you as a person, from, just being around you, I would label you very much as a family person and a people person. Tell us, how did you label yourself? How would you describe yourself on paper to people who want to get to know the person you, as opposed to the candidate you?
I'm very introspective. Between extrovert and introvert, interestingly, like I actually am more of an introvert. Like my energy I build in moments of like silence when I'm alone. That's how I kind of recharge. I'm also an empath, and I think that's what ultimately pulls me from introvert to extrovert. It's like a sense that others are struggling, and that's why I gravitate to people. If I didn't have that, I might be like 100% introvert, right? Like locked in, like in the house. But being an empath pulls me out, and frankly, I think that's also a good thing, because when I get pulled out, like I'm not, the fire I bring to discussions and the desire to dismantle barriers that are set forth in front of people, I'll do so even at the expense of friendships, right? And I think that's ultimately like the comfort I have as an introvert, that if we need to lose friends to do what's right, so be it. But also the empath is what gives me the momentum and the drive, right? To like I said, dismantle these barriers.
Yeah, I feel that. I definitely can tell that about you as well.
So, I mean, I grew up in Providence. You grew up in Central Falls. Both cities, similar situations. But like, I couldn't tell anybody what it was like growing up in Central Falls. You asked me about Southside Providence. I can tell you about Southside Providence. What was it really like growing up in Central Falls?
So a day in Central Falls, I'll give you a day. So my father struggled, some issues. I've mentioned that in the past, addiction and whatnot, and he wasn't always around. So, and then my mom was trying to, 5 kids, right, and like stay afloat and have a job, and also try to have moments of happiness in her own life. So there were moments where we had to like completely take care of ourselves, and it would be like you walk to school, square mile. So walking was fine to school. You walk back. We'd go down. My brother, myself, and my best friend back then, who's really become a family member to us. We would go down to Frank's Variety, a grocery store. We'd get like, what is it? Swiss rolls. We'd eat Swiss rolls, and then that's pretty much dinner. And then we walk around 25-cent Swiss rolls. Anybody that went to the grocery stores back then, 25-cent juices, 25-cent Swiss rolls. And we walk around that square mile probably like 5 times, right up to about 10 p.m. Occasionally, frequently get stopped for no apparent reason. You know how it is. You're walking around, like, what are you doing? And we just got used to that. But we would just keep walking, and we would just talk. And we were always talking about what it would be like to get out the square mile, but we were always in it, right? Always just, we never went to Pawtucket. It was this weird thing. It was like there was an invisible wall. And, you know, CF is interesting because it's a city with a small town feel. And the Four Corners are really different as well. We were on like the central outside compared to the Hunt, which is a nicer end near Cumberland. So that's what it was like. There was a lot in CF. There was just a place where there's extraordinary need, and yet such a tight-knit community that spends so much time just thinking and talking about like what the future could look like, whether it's for the children, their children, or if you're one of the kids at the time, you know, for you. So that's what it was like. I mean, I played football, I did wrestling, you know, for Division 4, right? So you're not super, this isn't like some national stuff. You're just trying to stay fit and get some tension out most of the time. But that's how it was like. It was a simple life. I guess that's what I mean. It was really like, it was a lot of just doing the same thing over and over again, but finding pleasure in it.
Interesting. I don't know very much about Central Falls either, but that's really interesting to hear. You hear that story, similar to that story, pretty often within the Black and Brown community as well. You know, just stuck in that kind of bubble, invisible fence, as you said, of an area that you just know because that's where you grew up.
It's crazy. I was fortunate because my grandmother was a traveler. And,
that doesn't happen very often.
You know, my grandma was a traveler, and not just that she was a traveler, she would take us with her. You know, then I picked up bowling competitively, so I was able, as a teenager, I was able to travel and get outside of not just South Providence, Washington Park, or South Providence. I was able to get outside. So, like, to hear that, it's like it doesn't surprise me because there's so many people like that story that, you know, I when I think about the students that I had, you know, and I remember we took a group of students down to Myrtle Beach, and one of them said, you know, I've never left Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And they were about to turn 18 years old, and I'm thinking in my head, by the time I was 18, I was blessed to be able to be outside of Rhode Island multiple times, you know, flying, going to Louisiana or driving to Louisiana. Or
I'm an implant here, as you know, from New York, but I was lucky enough, again, to be able to do those things. And I chose to start doing the whole modeling thing when I was about 16, and that helped bring me out, so to speak, and to do different things out of my comfort zone and to move into different areas and things along that line. That's how I ended up here in Providence. That's how I ended up here. But, you know, one thing I want to ask before we go to a commercial again, Dr. Lewis, Daniel, so again, I would peg you so much as a people person and so much as a family man, and I appreciate all those things in you. To be honest, I feel that I'm a little bit more of an introvert than I let on as well, but we're not going to get into that. What I really want to know is, what is going to be your main priority if you are elected? What's going to be the first thing that you would want to work on?
Make Dion as chief of staffs. There we go. You got that all staff. There we go. Boom.
No, we do need a queer liaison. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything, right? I mean, that question, I know that it's like the interview question, and I've heard it before, but it really is about the first 100 days, right? Like, what are we going to do the first 100 days? And the first 100 days, it is about changing the face of that state house.
Oh, yes.
It is about bringing people in that are going to bring that fire. Not people that are going to agree with me, people that are going to be focused on doing the right thing. And, you know, it's about a mindset around solutions. And we have to talk about licenses for those who do not have documentation. We have to talk about by executive order. We have to talk about ending contracts with ICE and private prisons by executive order. We have to talk about taking federal dollars and whatever's left after this administration tries to give it out to their friends to make sure it gets invested in healthcare infrastructure, and also to really immediately focus on programs. Like, look, I want to take a percentage of those federal dollars, millions of those federal dollars, and I want to make sure that all the nonprofit organizations that do mutual aid work get grants. And they not grants that they have to, you know, fill out and justify, grants because we know that they've been doing the work historically.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But that's something I think you and Dion have in common with, with your background in school and children, working with those kinds of after school activities and things like that. I've heard you say it before. That is definitely a big one and something that would begin to change the schooling system as a whole.
But Dr. Munoz, I have two important questions. Two very important questions. I hope you're ready for these questions.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
I'm ready. Always ready.
All right. First question is, it's fall, and if you were to have a day to yourself, where you don't have to do any campaigning, you don't do anything, any advocacy or anything like that, you get to sit down on the couch with the family, right? And you get to have a snack. What would be that go-to snack for you and your family?
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going.
I mean, if I'm not buying it and I'm making it on my own, it would be apple pie. Nice.
What? You can make apple pie?
You're making apple pie?
Traditional, nice Southern baked apple pie, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
Maybe that's how you can start winning some votes, baking everybody some apple pies.
Hello,
baking pies.
Hidden talent.
I like to bake.
Wow.
This is you package them up, right? You put them in a little box, and it says Luis Daniel Munoz for governor on them, and you just send them to people's houses, like baked pies. I think that might work.
That'd be the most expensive way to get votes.
Literally.
But I like to use some pecans too, just a little crumb of pecans and the syrup. Gives it a nice,
phenomenal.
The pecans in the syrup.
I like to cook, but I more importantly like to eat. So there's that.
He does like to eat. I tell you that much. He walked into the studio, and in the studio there was some corn chips, and you see him just like, oh, corn chips. Didn't know if they were stale. Didn't know how long they've been there. He just saw corn chips.
I need to make
when
sure.
You gotta eat, right?
So, my next question. So, now that we know the good doctor, bakes, so we can expect a pie sent to the Progress channel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A whole pie.
Just a whole pie. Okay.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. You started talking about food with us. Goodness gracious.
These two right here, these two foodies right here, I'll tell you that much. I went out to Habitation and ate a lot.
I believe you.
So
what are we to do?
My next question is, you're a runner, right? And I know sometimes runners run with headphones. Do you run with headphones?
Sometimes, if it's too early in the morning, just because you want to hear if the cars are coming, I don't. So if it's like 4, I won't.
Gotcha. Okay. So if you're running and you like want to push yourself to one extra mile, and you had your headphones on, what would be that song that you would just put on that would get you to the extra mile?
The thing is, like, the songs have evolved over time, right? So when I was in high school, I could say Rocky and Eye of the Tiger and all that. But instrumental music is, I think I've said this before. I think this might have been a question in the last interview we had.
Did you say classical last time?
Instrumental. So it's
you know what? Yeah, deja vu.
All right, I gotta think about a whole
You did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you totally said this.
Yeah.
But I guess running when you were a kid, walking those circles around the block, huh?
Yeah. But when I was a kid, I used to daydream all the time. And sometimes teachers didn't like that. But like as I've gotten older, I've been able to compartmentalize those moments of daydreaming, right? And you have to if you want to exist in the professional environment. But those runs for me are those moments. And so a lot of what I do, daydreaming is a real simplified way of really saying visualization, right? So visualizing the day, visualizing the next 10 days, visualizing the next 30 days, imagining moments. What would you do in these moments, right? And in some respects, sometimes I think, because I've done this reflection, and sometimes I think that at what I'm really doing when I kind of psychoanalyze myself is I'm trying to overcome fears as I visualize. It's like, what is it that really makes me afraid about the future, about the challenges I might confront? And can, through this visualization, I place myself in a position to overcome that fear so that when it does happen in real life, I'm ready. So anyway, deep reflection, but yeah.
Well, Dr. Munoz, we have to go to commercial. And everyone out there, we still have final thoughts.
Stick around.
So stick around.
We'll be here.
Who?
Maybe.
Me.
Kikipedia, your online guide to LGBTQ plus bars, clubs, and events. Find all the tea on your local gay bars. Home of the internet's most comprehensive digital drag show and virtual event guide. Visit kikipedia.app or dragstreams.com now!
And we are back.
I told you to be here.
I was trying to like take a breath and then talk at the same time, and it just like didn't come out.
I've been there. I have been there on my show. Where
Wait,
it's like,
wait. Dr. Munoz, question, right? Because he said I was, as pleasant as a lemon or something like that earlier. What are the health properties of lemons?
Health properties of lemons. I don't know if I'm the right person. We have to ask like someone who has more expertise on ecology.
Send me a link so I can come back at him, because if he says I'm like a lemon, I gotta have good comebacks. But Dr. Munoz, it's always a pleasure to have you here. It's always a delight to have a conversation with you about what's moving forward in our community and how we push our community forward and communities forward. And how we not just move Providence forward, but also how we move the state forward. Good luck out there on your race.
Thank you so
I know
much.
we got a long way to go. We got a whole nother year and a month or so to go. But good luck out there on the campaign trail and all that stuff. But we do have final thoughts.
Yeah.
Because we have to end.
We
have to end. I know. It is Tuesday, so we'll give you guys back your Tuesday night. I promise.
Yeah, everyone can have back your Tuesday night. Go back to rolling your hair and painting your toenails. Eating that Hot Pocket that you've had for 3 nights straight.
Etc. Etc.
It's okay.
Finishing Squid Games.
So we're gonna start with Dr. Munoz for the final thoughts, and then Taylor, you can take it away with that right after Dr. Munoz, and I'll wrap it all up.
Great. So final thoughts is like 60 seconds, just to get the framework.
60 seconds.
Okay. So thank you again for this amazing opportunity. For anyone watching, our website is continuously updating. Anything that's not covered on the website, which you'll see in updates in the next 2 days, you can reach out. Happy to answer questions. In terms of who I am, again, for anyone who's met me just for the first time today, grew up in Central Falls in the Square Mile City, experienced poverty, experienced homelessness, experienced hunger, and all of that informed my decision to become a medical doctor. But ultimately, having been a medical doctor, seeing that the systemic inequities can't really always be resolved from within the system, I'm running for governor of Rhode Island because I believe that this position can help catalyze programmatic change, especially now when we have over $1 billion that we can allocate to programs and infrastructure that can support the working and the marginalized in the state. If you want to learn more, you can go to governor2022.com. Please understand that this is a people-powered campaign. So whether you can donate or volunteer in any way that you can stand with us, calling friends, letting them know that out of the 5 candidates in the race as of now, I'm the candidate with lived experience and the candidate that is going to stand beside you and push for a better future, a future that will last 7 generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was amazing. You always spark that interest in me when you're speaking. I'm like, okay, all right, this is the guy.
Damn, boy.
This is the guy.
You spray him with some cold water. What's going on? Sparking interest. What's going on with you? He's a married man.
You know what? We'll talk about this later. But no, thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for that and for everything that you've done and going to do. If I have to leave the viewers with a final thought, I would just say, like I like to say on my show, make sure you're being good to yourselves. There's a lot going on in this world, a lot that, we are all dealing with one day at a time, a lot of issues being covered, a lot of problems being unveiled, especially coming out of a pandemic and things like that. And, just in general, the world's going to be pretty tough on you. And that's something that we don't talk about enough in a lot of different aspects. The world is going to be tough on you, and we have to prepare people for that, but you don't have to be tough on yourself. So make sure you're being good to yourself. Make sure you're looking on the inside for answers, making sure you're being good to yourself spiritually, physically as well. It's a really big part of it. And then we can grow mentally as well. And mental health is also a huge thing that I want to make sure everyone is aware of and taking care of as well. And so I'm going to leave you with that today. Also, make sure you catch me on Tea with Taylor this Friday at 6 o'clock and every Friday moving forward until God says so. Friday at 6 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you catch Tea with Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Dr. Munoz. It is always great to sit down and to have a conversation. This was a lot of fun tonight. I just want to say this. I am tired. I'm exhausted. So I think my final thought is, I think it's important for each and every one of us to understand the importance of self-care. As my friend Taylor said, be good to yourself. Take care of yourself. Know when you need that rest. Know when you need to say no to people. Know when you need to put the phone down. Know when Facebook needs to go off, as everyone was surprised last week.
Oh my God, that was a big one. That was big.
You didn't know what to do with yourself, did you? Right? But somehow, former social media influencer Donald Trump was still able to get off some dumb stuff out there. And you know what? I couldn't go really without going into my final thoughts saying this. I mean, did he and Brian Kemp have a conversation and just got together and just started throwing out dumb random facts about HIV?
No, he doesn't have conversations with anyone. He's just dumb.
So again, take care of yourself while you're out there, like seriously. And the reason why I say that is because somebody had said to me recently, and I haven't done the Donald Trump voice in a while because people had told me it was scary and they started having PTSD with the Donald Trump voice. Mm-hmm. If you guys take a look, as you can see, we are getting ready to go into a midterm election next year nationally. There's a big chance that orange guy with the gold hair can run. I say, please take care of yourself. Seriously. Because for him to still be able to influence rhetoric still shows, for a coach to still spit out racial slurs and homophobic slurs, for trans women of color to still be killed on our street. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to look out for our own backs. We need to look out for each other's backs. But more importantly, please, please, everyone out there, just take care of yourself. That's my final thought tonight. And that's it. Again, thank you to Dr. Munoz, running for governor in Rhode Island for 2022. Thank you to Taylor Neptune, host of Tea with Taylor. And thank you for all y'all out there watching. Shout out to my friend JD. Shout out to Ivan. Shout out to Pastor Jamie. Shout out to Bonnie. There you go. The ones that commented tonight. Y'all getting some shout out to the end of the night. All right, Chris, take us out of here. Bye.